He will have power. But the book of Revelation hinted at his supernatural abilities as well. No human will be able to stop him. Some theologians propose that many staged miracles will occur, causing the world to flock to him, such as being healed from a fatal wound. So, what biblical hints are given regarding who he might be? Well, I believe one of the greatest biblical hints is his name. Let's take a look here. Revelation chapter 13. So it's talking about the Antichrist and what he's going to do, and it says that he forced all people, great and small, to receive a mark, right? The mark of the beast, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had that mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here it is, verse 18. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. Okay, and that number is 666. So a few things here. Number one, we see that the mark of the beast is something that can be calculated. It is the number of a man. Okay, so this is a human. This is a number that should give us, that should track a human being. Okay, who is the Antichrist, and how will that number somehow land us on a man? Because it will be his name. This number can be calculated. It is the name of a human. Okay, I mean, just basic hermeneutic there. Now, there are many interpretations of what this refers to. Okay, and as you look through commentaries and various scholarly perspectives, there are a few things that many note. Number one, the Apostle John, who is writing this, is likely trying to communicate the name of the Antichrist, not just for us who are reading it today, but also he would have expected his readers at the time to know this name and be familiar with it. And so, is there a name that those who would have been reading this letter at the time of its authorship could have recognized? Well, let's get into it. Gematria. Unlike other languages, every letter in the Aramaic and Hebrew alphabet has a number assigned to it. And so to the readers of John, having a number attached to a letter was very common, especially among those of Hebrew origin. And so again, I emphasize the point that whatever name equals 666 here, it's important that it is a name that John's readers would have been familiar with. And that's just, basic biblical hermeneutics 101. You always have to consider the original audience as well. For instance, let's say that there was a name that we could calculate that equals 666. I don't know, let's throw Michael Jackson, okay? Let's just say that his name, if you calculated the gematria there, that it equals 666. Well, to the original audience, that name would have meant nothing to them. They wouldn't know who Michael Jackson is. Even John doesn't know who Michael Jackson is. And so that's why many scholars make the point that the name of the beast here would have likely been a name that both the original readers knew, and it would have to be someone so popular that people even today would be familiar with this name. Okay, now another point. There are many titles and names that you could come up with in Hebrew that could equal 666. Okay? However, did you know that some of the earliest manuscripts of the book of Revelation actually have this passage translated as 616? Oh, yes. And so many scholars will argue that the original number in this verse could either read 666, as most of our Bibles today have it recorded, or 616. And as you look in your footnotes and in your commentaries, you will see that many early manuscripts actually have it written as 616. So here is the big question. Is there a name that the readers of John between 60 and 90 AD would have known, that we also today would know, that equals both 666 and 616? Believe it or not, yes, there is a name. There's a name that when you calculate it, it can equal 666 and 616, and the people who were reading this later at the time were very familiar with, and today, this person is so notorious that we are familiar with it today. What is that name? It is Nero Caesar, the Roman emperor who was the worst persecutor of Christians to ever live. Now, many of you already know who this is. And this is why some people will say, well, if John was referring to Nero here, does that mean that there will not be a future Antichrist? Because Nero died, right? And this is why you actually have many believers who don't even believe an Antichrist will come, because they are just sold on the fact that John was clearly writing about Nero here, but they know Nero was dead, so they say, well, okay, well, maybe the Antichrist just was something for the first believers, but we will never really see him in our lifetime, because this is obviously referring to Nero, but he's dead. There's a huge section of believers who actually land there. Okay, they don't even think there's a man of lawlessness coming. Well, if you've seen our previous documentary on the Antichrist, you know that we believe that there will be future Antichrist or man of lawlessness, and we've referenced many scriptures to that point. And so, if there is going to be a future Antichrist, why would John here be referring to Nero? Well, it's time to go on a little journey. So here again at the seminary library, and one thing that we learned is that